One of the most inspiring business success stories in Australia is Lynn Fox. In 1956, 19-year-old Lindsay Fox borrowed £400 to buy his first truck in Melbourne. Today, Lynn Fox is the largest privately owned supply chain solutions company in Asia Pacific, with over 5,000 trucks on fleet. Under the roof of the incredible Fox collection, we are here to find out more about Lindsay's other passion, and that is cars. Lindsay Fox, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Can you tell us where your love of cars came from?
I think it was something that ultimately grew when I was a kid. My father had a 1926 Morris Cowley with a dicky seat, and we used to go down to St Kilda Baths, and we'd drive from our house in Windsor down to the beach, and I think it probably went from there, and I got to a stage where I got a buzz out of taking the names of all of the various cars at that particular time. And it sort of progressed from there.
What was your first car?
My first car was an Austin Atlantic, an Austin A90, and that was a pretty fancy car. It had an electric roof, which went back, was a convertible, electric windows, and this was probably 1955.
Ahead of its time.
Oh, way ahead of its time. In fact, I think there's one downstairs. I bought one just to come in here because of that situation.
A lot of buyers of exotic and valuable cars, Lindsay, tend to garage them and they never see the light of day. But with you, you tend to display the cars for everyone else to enjoy or drive them yourself. What is it about cars that make you tick?
I guess the design, the history. Lots of the cars when I was a young fella, I couldn't afford them. And I started collecting probably 30 years ago, and my son, Peter, who loves these cars, said we should form a museum and not do what you said was traditional of people collecting cars, and create a charitable situation. Well, the charity side didn't work out because it costs more than what you can raise. But we raise a bit of money here by using this place for various events, and it's come in pretty good for that situation because they come to the cars. And when this is set up, I had my 80th birthday here, and we had a table from that room all the way through to the back for 80 people, and on that occasion we drank 60 bottles of whiskey, so everyone was high on the day, and it was a fantastic day.
Your 80th was a very big occasion. You had a lot of people under this roof.
Well, the conception reception took 9 months before the birthday party, and we took a boat from Athens to Venice. And we had a great time with 450 people on it.
Lindsay, if you were a car that reflects your personality, what would you be?
Probably the truck downstairs. You know, this year I've been driving a little Volkswagen utility. I can't think of the name
Amarok?
of it. An Amarok.
Yep.
A very good car, most enjoyable, easy to get in and easy to get out. I have a 2013 Rolls, and I have a 2016 Rolls convertible. They've both done one's done less than 100 kilometres, and the other one has done less than 500 kilometres.
Lindsay, you love your MGs, and we've got 3 perfect examples over time here.
Well, you've got the TC, the TD and the TF, and they're all roughly 4 or 5 years apart with the actual models. And over there you've got the SS 100 Jag, which was probably 10 years earlier than than these particular cars.
Yet from a distance, they all look very similar. The big wheel arches, the massive chrome headlights at the front there, the open top driving. They must be just the perfect car to be driving.
They're both British.
Yes,
and you can see the styling has sort of continued through from probably 38 up to 55.
Which one would you take home tonight? The Jag. I think I would tend to agree with you there.
That one.
There's something about a Jag, isn't there? That's
well, that's a very special car. There's not a lot of them about.
Yeah.
That car was completely rebuilt in New Zealand, where there was a specialist on SS Jaguars, and we've probably had that for 15 years.
A lot of these cars, I've noticed, they're all in pristine condition. Do you buy them like this, or are they restored?
No, they're restored.
They are, yeah.
They're restored.
Yeah.
We go right through them.
It's good. Well, there's not a speck of dust on them, so you do a good job
of keeping them.
There's a girl that runs
around dusting them all the time.
Isn't it funny with Rolls-Royce, you typically associate them with sitting in the back of one and being driven. You're the one driving them, which I think is fantastic.
Well, it was funny when we walked in here today. Ari said to me, you know, that beautiful Mercedes limo downstairs. He said, but you've never liked sitting in the back. No, I've always enjoyed driving.
Yeah.
I could get a lot of joy about jumping in a car and driving to Brisbane.
What car would you choose to drive to Brisbane?
Probably the Amarok. Because people don't take any notice of you, it's just another car. These days, although I never have been carried away with the aspect of sitting in a fancy car. As you can see, I'm a real fancy dude.
Your 1957 Ford F500 truck was the truck that started it all, but it was lost for a long time. How did that feel, getting that back in your possession?
Well, I think it was our 20-year anniversary as a company, and we found it up at Dalesford in a big bush of blackberries, and they had it completely stripped, rebuilt like it is today. And I was amazed to see it when we did. That truck I bought, it was 2 years old, and it worked for the Prahran City Council. It was number 5. When I bought it, it had done 6,000 miles. 2 years old, and I paid about £1,100 for it, off Slr Motors or Commercial Motors in Prahran, who were the Ford dealers. And for its first 2 years, it worked for the Prahran City Council. But it was a terrific truck, and still is. It still looks brand new. I'm always amazed that Ford haven't come and had a look and said, geez, that's where it all started. All of this came about because of a Ford truck.
Lindsay, we're sitting on the front bumper of your famous truck, the truck that started it all.
Yeah.
It must be a good feeling seeing this when you walk in the collection every time.
It is, and the collection wouldn't be there if we never had this truck to start with, because this is where it all started. Little acorns, oak trees grow. This personifies it, this particular truck. This was the first money spinner.
The slogan, you were passing another fox.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
When I bought my second truck. And at a later date, when my wife had her 4th child, our Sydney manager sent her a telegram, congratulations, Paula, you've passed another fox.
When you sit in the driver's seat of that, do all the memories of back in, what was it, 1956 come back to you?
Yeah, they're all part and parcel.
Yeah. What did you used to cart in the back of this?
Coke from the West Melbourne Gasworks, which is just around the corner, Schweppes soft drinks, Coca-Cola, boxes for all the rabbit exporters. That was about it. And heating oil in the winter.
You've had, Lindsay Fox has still got clients from way back in the 60s, Coles,
Oh,
Dunlop.
no. All of our customers, even today, go back probably an average of 40 to 50 years.
Really?
We've had a great working relationship and partnership with all of our customers. It's really been partnerships rather than a subservient relationship.
Well, it's great seeing this here. It's the first thing you see when you walk into the Fox collection. So let's hope it stays here for many more years, Lindsay.
Oh, well, keep on looking.
Apart from your truck, do you have a favourite in your car collection?
No, I don't have a favourite. They all vary. Downstairs you've got all of the high-end Ferraris. We have an order in for the Project One, which we get delivered later this year. They are building 275 with electric drive on the front wheels and power on the back. They're 2.8 million euro, and over 3,500 applicants for the cars. So when they come into production and they are available on the market, they'll probably be worth twice as much. But that will be a special car because it's probably a combination of Tesla, the tradition of the 300 SL with the gull wing, and 0 to 200 Ks in something like 5 seconds.
You've got some incredible Mercedes-Benz on display, as you said, the 300 SL. You've got the 600 Pullman limo owned by Ringo Starr, and the 540k Cabriolet B downstairs that won awards at Pebble Beach. It must feel pretty special to have something like that.
The 540k is a lovely car. The Ringo Starr one is, I guess if the back seat could talk, there'd be some interesting stories with Ringo Starr in his heyday. But there's another one downstairs with the engine at the back. Did you see that one? It's got two engines.
What's the story with that?
Well, there were 5 of them made. There's one at the museum in Stuttgart and one here. All the others were just crushed.
Why would they do that?
Probably not wanting them to get to the market where if somebody had an accident in one, they'd be liable. Because we buy a few trucks off Mercedes-Benz, they made a present of it to me.
You've got a 2014 Lexus Lfa, I noticed. It's
Yes.
still got the wrapping on the seats. That is a car that is pretty much on everyone's bucket list at Car Advice. How did you get your hands on that?
I gave an offer they couldn't refuse.
Simple.
And Toyota are a very good company. We buy about 2,000 or 3,000 forklifts off them. So it wasn't all of that difficult to tell them if they want to keep on selling forklifts, I needed to have a car like that. Now, I've never been in it, I've never driven it, but it is a very special and a very classical car, even today, and it's 2 or 3 years old or 4 years old.
Going back a long time now, just over your shoulder is the Porsche 718 RSK.
Yep.
I've never seen one of those cars before. What is the story behind that model?
Alan Hamilton was the Porsche dealer in Melbourne, and he went through a tough time probably 15 years ago, and he had to sell a few of his cars. I bought, I think, about 4 or 5 of them, including the 2 Porsches. They're very special cars. The increase in the value of them has been quite enormous. I think I might have paid $400,000 or $500,000 for it. Today you need a few more noughts behind that. But I'm not sure how far these things can keep on going. You've probably today, the ordinary Aussie battler has got to try and work out which ones are going to increase in value.
Lindsay, what's the history behind this car?
Well, it came to Australia very early in the piece, 1958, and was raced at Le Mans, raced at Albert Park. Quite an interesting history.
And it's in the perfect German race colour combination, isn't it, with the burgundy and the silver?
No, that was the colours of the car, and that's never been changed. It was completely rebuilt, as you can see.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's not incredibly comfortable to sit in. The backrest is completely upright, and the driving position's a little bit bizarre.
Well, I guess that's to keep you awake.
Exactly.
Particularly in a 24-hour race.
Yeah, you can imagine the racers wearing goggles and helmets because there's that windshield doesn't do much. Yeah.
To sort of deflect the air over the top of your head. But a great car, classic Porsche.
Your grandchildren, do they love cars just as much as you?
Oh, yeah, they love them. And
yeah.
We're fortunate enough that we've got Phillip Island, we've got Anglesey, both facilities to drive and test. And as the kids get to 15, 16, or in some cases 14, they start learning to drive down there. So they have the opportunity that not a lot of people get. And as a result, that sort of weans them onto the like of cars. Now, all of our cars and our trucks are meticulously kept clean. That runs through the whole family. They're not allowed to have a dirty car, like our drivers aren't allowed to have a dirty truck.
I was going to say, I've never seen a dirty Linfox truck. It's something that you don't see on the roads anymore, is it?
No, well, my son's paranoid about it. Peter, the eldest son, who's the chairman of the company, he gets on the phone if he sees a dirty truck, and he rings up the fleet manager and says, "Get XYZ off the road. It is filthy dirty." So the response is very quick. They get it all clean and it's back on the road that afternoon.
Back to your collection, Lindsay.
Yep.
What makes you decide, I want that car in my collection?
Probably design and differential. You go back to the MGs, the TC, the TD, TF. In the days of my youth, as a 17, 18-year-old boy, they were the fanciest car you could get. And they were probably $1,400. And then they were followed by the Austin Healey. And in our collection, we've got the 100S, which is a very special car.
Are they the more of the affordable sports car that your average car lover can buy these days?
No, well, that's where I come back to the 928. The 928, I think, is a V8. It's got a lot of power, and it's probably around $30,000 max, unless you buy a GT, which is probably twice that amount of money, and it's that more expensive because there's only a limited number of them. Mm-hmm. And even with this one I've just bought from Mercedes, there's only 275 of them being made. So that in itself makes it a very exclusive car.
You going to drive that one as well?
Yeah, but it's really like a Grand Prix racing car. Now, in these high-powered engines, this one's got about 800 horsepower. You put your foot down and you snake along the road. And if you don't watch yourself and you're driving and you put your foot on the accelerator, you can get into all sorts of trouble.
Not ideal for driving around the streets of Melbourne, is it?
No, well, once again, anywhere, because it only means probably an extra half-inch of pressure on the accelerator. And you've got wheel skid, and with wheel skid, you sort of have an automatic response of putting your foot on the brake, and that doesn't help it at all. Mm. So once again, it's an education in driving these high horsepower cars. Well, this car here, the Slr Mclaren, was a joint venture between Mercedes-Benz and McLaren, and they were used in various racing events right throughout Europe. The 722 on the top is the number that Stirling Moss had on his car for the Millimilia, and these were also raced at Millimilia, hence the 722. And here is the F40, which was the follow-up of the 288 GTO, and from there they came to the F50, the Enzo, and there's now a series of about 7 or 8 of these particular cars. But they're very high performance. They really go hard.
And you've got a Jag down the end there as well. It's
that's the 220 Jag. There's the 220 Jag and the XJR 15, but the XJR 15 was a pure race car. The one down there was a street car as well as a race car. But once again, they made about 250 of those.
A Ferrari has to be red, right? And you've
it has to be red.
Two of them
It
here.
has to be red. Yeah.
Who looks after your collection in terms of insurance, registration, and the mechanical side of things?
Well, the fleet manager, we run 6,000 trucks, so there's a tag on to that where all the cars for registration, for insurance are all covered. For maintenance, they all go through a regular routine. None of them do any real miles, so it's really a matter of coming in, turning the engines over, taking them for a run around the track. You'll see when you came in there was a big forklift that comes in, picks them up, puts them down, they drive around the block, picks it up, put them back into the...
How often do they get a drive?
I think every one would be driven probably 4 times a year, but not a big drive. Just to turn the oil over and make sure that there's a bit of oil through all the component parts of the engine.
Do you start them up in here, give them a bit of a rev?
No.
No?
There's a person that does all of that, and he has a full responsibility. He was a mechanic that was trained at Mercedes-Benz. He's been with us now for 3 or 4 years. It becomes the love of a job. It's probably like your job. You get out of bed and you look forward to going and doing your next interview. And as a result, you want to know what's on the next day. He would be like that with his job. And he comes out to my home, and there's about half a dozen cars in the garage there, and he goes through them and he drives them for half a day or something. But he loves his job.
You mentioned before Anglesey, you've got the Australian Automotive Research Centre there, which Car Advice has used numerous times to test our cars. You obviously did that for the trucks as well. How did the facility come about?
It was originally owned by International Harvester, the first supplier of trucks, new trucks to me. I bought my first Inters in 1964, and when International went broke in Australia or in the world, that came up for sale and I bought it. It's 3,000 odd acres. There's probably a couple of 100 kilometres of road and track. It's a beautiful facility. Have you been there?
No, not yet.
Oh, you must do it. In fact, it's one of those special things where we evaluate trucks, evaluate cars, test brakes, skid pans, tiles that reflect ice. So there's every aspect of conditions that you can test a car on.
Lindsay, looking towards the future now,
Yep.
You're a driver who loves to drive cars, you're a car enthusiast.
Yep.
Would you use an autonomous car?
I won't even use a driver. No, I don't think so. You've got to look at history. History will tell you that when the first automobiles came on the road, a man had to walk in front of them with a red flag. And the automatic vehicles will come out. I have been in a Tesla going from Bel Air in California down to the beach, and the man never touched the steering wheel all the way. And it just followed the two lines on the road, which was quite amazing. I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, so I don't think I could probably do it.
It's often hard to tell the difference in today's cars, especially in a world of SUVs. Do you feel that modern day cars have lost their uniqueness and soul?
Oh, no. The old car was, there was no power steering, the brakes were iffy, the whole mechanical system was nowhere near as well preserved. I go back to the day where the cars started with 90-day warranty, 6-month warranty, 12-month warranty, and you've got companies like Kia selling cars today with 7 years warranty. Now, for any young person or any person buying a car, that would be the automatic way to go, to buy a car with 7-year warranty. I don't know anybody from Kia. I've never bought a Kia, but I'm tremendously impressed by the aspect of them selling a car with the confidence that they would keep it under warranty for 7 years for no extra cost. That means that they've built all of the safety points into it, and they've built the thing with enough strength to do exactly what a car could do in 7 years. Even if it did 100,000 Ks a year, it still stays under warranty. Now, all of the big car companies will follow suit. I think you'll start seeing 3, 5, and they'll have to come up and match them. When they match them, I would assume Kia will go to 10. There's nobody else that have come up with 7, and they're to be congratulated for being in that situation. In fact, I went into a place at Essendon Airport on the weekend, which was a Kia dealer, and I asked him what was the top of the line, and he told me there was a 7-seater van type vehicle, and I said, well, how much was it? He said 60,000. I got to watch my notes. $60,000. Now, if you look at that and you put 7 years of full warranty, that in itself's worth probably $30,000, maybe 35.
Lindsay, a lot of manufacturers, including sports cars, are beginning to phase out the manual gearbox. Does this bother you at all?
No. Look, it's a progression. When you go to, let's say, all the top racing cars, they've got a gearbox that's just one lever, boom, 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 up and down, 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 but not feeling your way through it. The early days, when you thought you'd become a good driver, you would use the revs of the engine to change the gears without using the clutch. We probably smashed a few gears and a few clutches over the period of doing it, but you used to feel pride in being able to drive the vehicle by doing it by the engine revs.
Lindsay Fox, I can't begin to thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you.
Been my pleasure talking with you. Thank you, dear.
Well, there you have it. I hope you've learned a little more about Lindsay's collection and his love of cars. If you haven't paid the Fox collection a visit yet, I think it's about time you did.